Hey, hey, hey! What's up, you guys? How are you all doing? What's up, Lee Rams? Lee Rams? Hey, Kitsune. Hey, Didi. Glad you could join. What's up, Okami? Hey, Bigfoot. Glad you're here. What's up, Hope? Your sister just went to the hospital. Oh, I hope she's okay. Nikki. What's up, Nikki? Glad you could join. Uh, how are you guys doing today? Huh? 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 So, okay, I have this problem, right? With my phone. So for some reason, like this just started happening when I switched phones. So it's been months now. Friggin' okay. I don't get I get my text messages delayed. So whenever someone sends me a text message, it's delayed, it's random. So sometimes it comes right away, but other times it takes like 4 hours or even more than that for it to come onto my phone, right? So I don't see it for like hours. And I don't know why it's happening. Um Yeah, it's so weird. So, yeah, which is bad, right? Because like, I would get a text and then somebody, and I wouldn't know about it, and then someone, and my friend or someone would go like, "Hey, Lynn, why didn't you respond to my text?" And we're like, "What? What text? I don't know. I didn't know about it." Yeah, it's weird. So I am with Verizon. Yes. Yeah. So I've called them before, and oh my god. So I called them the first time I called them. They told me to do all these things, right? So you gotta turn off your phone, you gotta take out your SIM card, maybe you gotta take out your battery, and I don't have those things that you push into your phone to take out your SIM card. I don't know what you call them. I don't have that little thing, so like I had to go find something small enough to stick into that hole, right? Yeah. So I finally found like a pin, like a needle. No, did I use a needle? No, I don't have a needle. I found I had to use a toothpick, right? Just push it in, and it's a little larger than the hole, so it took a while. Yeah, so I had to go. I had to tell them like, okay, you gotta wait. Wait for 5 minutes. Uh, while I like struggle with this phone, right? So I finally open it up and take it out, and they're like, okay, read me the serial number on the thing. So I do that, and then I push it back, and they tell me to put it back in and restart the phone. Put it back in, restart the phone, and they tell me to test it out. So I gotta call a friend and tell them to send me a text to see how long it takes. And then after that it worked, right? It was okay, so the text came right away. But I knew that it varies, right? It's random, so it may just start happening later. And they're like, "Well, call us again if it keeps happening." No, I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll call you again if it keeps happening." Maybe they fixed it. Who knows? Like maybe they did something on their end. Yeah, and then it kept on happening. And then I like the next day it happens again. And then I call them, and then they're like, "Oh, can you take out your SIM card and your battery?" I'm like, "Freaking, I already did this, right?" And they're like, "Oh, please do it again." So I have to go do it again, and it still didn't work, right? And then they go, "Oh, can you just reset your phone?" And I was like, "Wait, well, you want me to reset my phone?" I'm like, "Yeah, just reset your phone, see if it works." And I'm like, "Well, I can't do that now. Maybe I'll do that later." And they go, "Well, no. Is there a reason why you don't want to reset your phone now?" And I'm like, because I don't want to lose my stuff." And they're like, "Well, we have a backup and restore thing that you can use." And I'm like, I know you have that, but like, are you saying that I won't lose any of my other stuff, any of my stuff if I just reset it?" And they're like, "Yeah, you won't lose any of your stuff," which is wrong, by the way. Which is wrong. Okay, I think it's dangerous that they tell customers that you can just reset your stuff. You can just reset your phone and then everything will be fine. You won't lose anything. That's not true. Even if you have backups, you will lose stuff. For example, I have Google Authenticator on my phone, okay? And that thing doesn't transfer, okay? And that thing doesn't get backed up. So if I reset my phone, that thing's gone, right? So resetting a phone is not a small process like they seem to think, or they seem to tell their customers. Yeah. Yeah, so with an authenticator, you have to go to each specific app or each specific website that you have the authenticator for, and turn off two-factor authentication, right? And then delete it from your authenticator, right? And once you reset it, then you would have to turn on two-factor authentication on all those websites again. So it's a hassle, right? It's a big thing. I was like, fine, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it, and then I'll call you guys again. But then I told them, okay, but I'm not going to redo the whole like opening your SIM card and opening everything, right? And they're like, okay. They're like, okay, yes, you don't have to do that next time. I'll make a note of that. But yeah, so now I gotta reset my phone to see if it works. They're like, yeah. They're like, you can reset your phone, see if it works, and if it still doesn't work, then then we can escalate it to our engineers or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Why can't they just escalate it right now? What's up, Empress Mermaid? The government is reading my texts? Okay. Yeah, that may be true. Yeah, so now I can't get, I don't get texts, or I will get my text like hours later when it's too late. Verizon is not great. I mean, Verizon is pretty good. I've just had this problem recently. Sorry, I shouldn't say recently. It's been months. Verizon, like the service is pretty good. Yeah, I haven't had a problem with the service. It's just this texting issue. What kind of phone? I have Samsung S10, I believe. Yeah. You don't think they know what's going on? Maybe they have no idea what's going on. Yeah, it's just a big deal. Why can't things just work, you guys? You know what we gotta do? We gotta watch some 8 by 11 bridges to cheer me up. Alright, let's do this. And let me change. Dun, 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 dun. (8'11" bridge. All right. This is what cheers me up these days. All right. Now, let's see. These latest ones are after they already raised the bridge. So we gotta go back. We gotta go back to earlier episodes where the bridge was shorter and the damage is much more epic. Alright, which one looks good? Speeding semi, let's see. Okay, light turns red. He tries to run the red light. Oh my god. Destruction. I feel bad for any pedestrians walking by. Oh, they'd be like, what the hell? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, another angle. Good job, good job. Holy shit. That actually hit the bridge behind it, right? It didn't just... It sheared it off and it hit the actual bridge, which is not good. This car is like, I'm just gonna go back. Oh, wait, what are you doing? Oh, he got through. He's like, no, I don't need to go. This is my road and I'm going, I'm riding along with it. Can't open a traps truck. All right. Red light, signs flashing. The guy's got to stop, but he doesn't. But he doesn't. Oh shit, here's a pedestrian. He's not gonna have... Oh, Penske trucks. Yeah. Oh no, he's stuck. He can't get out. What do? You just gotta call the police, right? I'm telling you, these Penske trucks, they get stuck all the time. Yeah, you gotta call the police. Alright, last one. Ideal in hope. Oh, this guy's smart. See that? He stopped. He saw the sign. He's like... He comes... You see that? He comes out. He looks at the bridge. He's like, nope. I can't... Oh, shit. Oh, no! Why? Why, you saw the bridge, dude? You saw the bridge. Oh. He thought he could make it. He thought he could make it. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Just tear off that top for me. He's got no hope. Oh no, what did they have in that truck? I've always wondered what they had in those trucks. Imagine if it was a moving company. It ruins all, like they're trying to move your shit. And it ruins everything. Now what's he doing? He can't get out. Oh, he's trying to get out. This is painful. This is like parking in San Francisco. It just gives me anxiety. Alright, it wasn't that bad, right? This guy is smarter than most of the other ones that we've seen. Yeah, this guy actually stopped and looked. And he didn't get that much damage. It's fine. Yeah, that was fun. Alright. I do have some food. I went to a Japanese supermarket and bought a bunch of snacks. So I've restocked. I have some mochi. How about that? Yeah. This is sesame mochi. Can you read? That's right. You gotta know the dimensions of your rig. Yeah. Yeah. That guy, I don't know. That guy was a little bit smarter than the other guys. Ugh. All right. Sesame mochi. Mm. Mm-hmm. Good job. Pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad at all. Oh, hey. Yeah, you like sesame mochi too? Awesome. How do I say your name? It's Russian, and I cannot pronounce it. You want me to share my mochi? Nah. Nah. Why? Why, it's mine. It's mine. I only have 8 though. Like, rate it? In terms of mochi, I'm gonna rate it probably a 7. 6 or 7. Yeah, I know that seems kind of low. But then this is, it's like, it's packaged mochi, right? It's not like fresh. Yeah, but it's pretty good. It's good for packaged mochi. You used to date a guy who went to uni in Durham. Is that bridge in Durham? Is that the same bridge? Do you know that bridge? Holy shit. Have you seen anyone hit the bridge? That's so funny. Yeah, that's such a good YouTube channel. It's pronounced Gopnik? Gopnik? Alright. What's up, Gopnik? Can you have sesame mochi too? I'm sorry, you cannot. Yeah, it's mine. Go buy your own. What is this? Am I running a charity? Alright. Yeah, they do have plenty of advance warning, right? But, you know, once in a while, a truck slips through. Oh, you're right. The only guy who didn't lose his job. Yeah, that guy didn't lose his job. So I guess you would lose your job, huh? Oh my god. Imagine having that happen and then going to your boss and trying to explain it. Like, boss, the entire top of your truck is gone. Wow, so it is that truck. Wow, you know, there's someone in the chat who knows that bridge, you guys. What the hell? That's so cool. You're famous. You haven't seen a crash? You always wished you had? Okay, well that's kind of dark. Why do you gotta wish bad things to happen to other people, huh? All right. All right. Let's get ready. Let's get started. So let's do a recap of what happened in the last chapter, okay? Technically, aren't all YouTubers charity? I guess. Yeah. No, I'm not a charity. Like, I'm a charity case. Like, you give me money. I'm not giving other people money. I'm a charity case. Oh, you think they need like more signs? Yeah, they should have a bunch of signs. They should have a bunch of signs like, please check your goddamn height. All right, so what happened last week? So our hero, after getting kicked by his master and falling unconscious, he wakes up in the arms of Ying Ying, in a cave. And so he wakes up, and then they exchange some flirty banter. And Ying Ying and they exchange some. Ying Ying told him that that she and her dad examined the bodies of those two nuns from the Hangshan school, right? Those two head nuns, and they determined that the nuns were killed by iron needles, but they're not sure who uses iron needles, right? They're not sure which fighter in the martial arts world uses iron needles as their weapons. So they go outside and they see that Run Wal Sing, her dad, who was the previous leader of the demon sect, her dad was in trouble. He was really cold because he was hit by the polar ice energy technique from Zuo Langchan, right, the head of the Songshan school. And at the time, his right-hand man, Xiang Wentian, was trying to cure him. And Ying Ying and Ling Huchong jump in to help. And they're all holding hands, transferring their chi to help the dad. And they stood there for a while, and then so they're standing there, they're transferring their chi, and they're just standing still. And it was snowing, so the snow was coming down on them, and they just cover all four people. So they're like these four snowmen standing there in the snow. So they're there. They hear some hoofbeats, right? Ling Huchong hears some hoofbeats, and turns out it was his master and his master wife, right? And they stop exactly where the four snowmen are, and they were having an argument. And master wife seems to be mad at the master for some reason. It seems like the master was too. She was mad that the master was too subservient to Zuo Langchan, who was the Songshan school leader, right? And they argue. The master thinks that Zuo Langchan killed the two nuns from Hangshan, right? The master still believes that Ling Huchong stole the evil resisting sword manual, but the master wife defended him and defends him, and she's like, no, I don't think he did. The master says he wants to invite Ling Huchong back into the school and give Ling Huchong his daughter's marriage, right? His daughter's hand in marriage, right? That's what he wants to do. And they ride off. And then so those two ride off, and then they hear some more hoofbeats, and it turns out it was Yue Lingshan and Lin Pingzhi, right? And they're doing stuff. They're being cute together, and then a bunch of people come and they try to capture the two, right? We don't know who they are. Try to capture the two. The two are in trouble, so Ling Huchong finally breaks off his chi transferring, and he jumps out and he starts killing all the attackers. What I didn't like was that he didn't even ask who they were. He just wiped them all out. But he saves them. He saved those two, and those two, they ride off, right? They ride off. Afterwards, the other three snowmen come out. They have cured Ren Wal Sing, and Wal Sing thinks that the attackers, the ones that he just killed, are from the demon sect, right? And yeah, that's basically it. Oh, and then Ling Huchong decides to go to the Shaolin Temple to retrieve the corpses of those two nuns and return them to Hangshan, right? To the Hangshan school. Remember, now he is the head. He is the headmaster of the Hangshan school, which is a school of ladies and nuns. And that's it. That's basically where we left off. How's that? You want? You think I should start a service called Only Snacks, where I just eat snacks? Sure, why not? I can do that. I don't know. It's probably not good for my nutrition, All this time you thought I was a white guy. Do I sound like a white guy? Is that why? Some people say I have an accent. I have like an Asian accent. I don't know what that means because there are many Asians. Like, do they mean a Chinese accent or a Vietnamese accent or what do they mean? So apparently I have an Asian accent. But you think that I am a white guy. Okay, so let's get started. Oh shoot, I forgot something. I never remember the sound effects. Like, I do it once in the beginning and then I forget it. Alright, chapter 29. Headmaster, part 1. Yes, I have the general Asian language and the Asian accent. Yeah, that's what I have. I'm Asian. I'm not Chinese. I'm not Vietnamese. I'm not Korean. I'm not Japanese. I am Asian. That's all I am. A California accent. Do I have a California accent? I do say hella. I do say hella sometimes. Yeah, that's what I got from California. My freaking California childhood drilled that word into my head. Alright, let's do this. At dusk, Ling Huchong arrived at the Shaolin Temple and told the welcoming monk that he was there to take the remains of Ding Xian and Ding Yi Shitai back to Hangshan. The welcoming monk went in to report, and after some time, he came out to tell Ling Huchong. Abbot said, the two Shitai's remains were cremated already. The monks in the temple are now reading scriptures to respectfully send them on their way. We'll send someone to deliver the ashes of the two Shitai to Hangshan. Ling Huchong walked into the hall where they were praying for the two Shitai. He knelt in front of the altar with the ashes and the funeral tablet and respectfully kowtowed a few times. He inwardly prayed, as long as Ling Huchong lives, I will carry Hangshan School forward with all my heart and might. I won't lose your trust in me. Later, he didn't ask to see the great master abbot, but he immediately went out of the temple after parting ways with the welcoming monk. When he reached the bottom of the mountain, it was still snowing heavily, so he quickly found a farmer's house to stay for the night. At dawn, he continued his journey to the north. I like how you can just find a farmer's house and stay there. When he arrived at a city, he bought a horse to ride on. Every day he traveled for around 70 to 80 li, and as soon as he stopped by an inn, he immediately moved his qi according to the method taught by Run Wo-Xing and slowly unblocked his meridian. After 7 days, his left arm was able to move again, normally. One day, while he was traveling, he was at a wine shop, drinking wine. This guy and his wine drinking. When he noticed people busily walking here and there on the street, many families were preparing for the new year, and there was an air of happiness around them. Ling Huchong poured himself another drink and thought, on Huashan, Master Wife has always led all the martial brothers and sisters in cleaning up, grinding the flour for New Year's cake, managing the New Year's red pockets? Oh, red envelopes. And stitching new gowns. Little Martial's sister would be cutting many paper-cut window decorations. How lively those New Years were. This year, I'm here all by myself, drinking this stuffy wine. Okay, here comes emo Ling Huchong again. As he was feeling melancholy, he suddenly heard the sound of people coming up the stairs. One person said, I'm very thirsty. It wouldn't be bad drinking a few cups here. Another person said, oh no, I know who these are. Another person said, if you're not thirsty, who could it be that it's bad to drink? Another person replied, Drinking wine is drinking wine. Thirsty is thirsty. How can you mix these two matters together? Another person added. The more you drink wine, the thirstier you'll get. Not only can't you mix these two matters together, they're completely different. When Ling Huchong heard this, he knew that it was the Peach Valley 6 fairies who had just arrived. He felt really happy and shouted, 6 Peach Valley brothers, quickly come up and drink wine with me. Suddenly, a hoo-hoo sound reverberated around the room. As the Peach Valley 6 fairies flew up the stairs, they rushed at Ling Huchong and grabbed his shoulders and arms. Then one by one called out, I saw him first. I grabbed him first. I spoke first. Master Ling Hu heard me first. If I didn't say that I wanted to come here, how could we have met him? Ling Huchong felt odd. He laughingly asked, what tricks are you 6 playing at? Flower Fairy went to the wine shop's windows and called out loudly, young nuns, big nuns, old nuns, not young nuns. I, Peach Tree Flower Fairy, have found Master Ling Hu. Quickly, hand me over the 1,000 silver taels. Branch Fairy also went towards the big window and called out, I, Branch Fairy, found him first. Big young nuns, quickly give me all the silver. Root Fairy and Fruit Fairy each grabbed one of Ling Huchong's arms and shouted, I found him first. It was me. It was me. Then, from the end of the street, some female voices called out, you found Hero Ling Hu? I found Ling Huchong. Quickly, hand over the money, Fruit Fairy called out. One hand gets the money, one hand delivers the goods, Trunk Fairy shouted. Right. If those small nuns don't want to pay their debts, then we'll hide Ling Huchong away and not give him to them. Root Fairy agreed. Branch Fairy asked, how do we hide him away? Do we shut him off somewhere and don't let those small nuns meet him? There were sounds of people going up the stairs as a few females rushed up. The first person to reach the landing was really a disciple of the Hangshan school, Yi He. Behind her were 4 more nuns and 2 young ladies, who were Zhang E and Qin Chuan. When the 7 of them saw Ling Huchong, their faces filled with happiness. Some were calling him Hero Ling Hu, some were calling him Big Brother Ling Hu, and there were also some who called him Master Ling Hu. Trunk Fairy and his brothers extended their arms to block the path to Ling Huchong. If you don't give us the 1,000 silver taels, then we won't deliver the goods. Ling Huchong laughingly said, Peach Valley brothers, how did these 1,000 silver taels come about? Branch Fairy answered, we met them just before and they asked me whether I've seen you or not. I said that temporarily I haven't met you yet, but we met you not long after that. Qin Chuan said, this uncle is lying. Oh, she's a young one, right? This uncle is lying. He said, I haven't. Ling Huchong's feet are alive, so it's most likely that he's at the end of the earth now. How could we have met him? Wrong. We had the foresight already that we were going to meet Ling Huchong here. Flower Fairy disagreed. Trunk Fairy added, that's right. Otherwise, why would we come here and not somewhere else? Ling Huchong laughed. I've guessed it. These martial sisters are looking for me, so they entrusted the 6 of you to help them look for me. Then you said that you wanted 1,000 silver taels. Isn't that right? We asked for 1,000 silver taels. We know it's an exorbitant price, but if they could do business, then it would be worth it. Who knew that they're very generous? This middle-aged nun said, all right, once you've succeeded in finding Hero Ling Hu, we'll give you 1,000 silver taels. Are these words true? Trunk Fairy explained. Yi He answered, correct. Once they found Hero Ling Hu, then Hangshan School will give them 1,000 silver taels. 6 palms immediately shot out, and the Peach Valley 6 fairies said at the same time, hand it over. We're Buddhists. Why would we carry so much silver on us? I'd like to bother the 6 of you to go to Hangshan to fetch it, Yi He said. She reasoned that the Peach Valley 6 fairies wouldn't want to be troubled. Who would have thought that they would think it over, and answered at the same time, very well, we'll go up Hangshan with you to avoid you not paying your debt. Ling Huchong laughingly said, congratulations on becoming rich and selling me at such a great price. The Peach Valley 6 fairies' orange-like faces were full of happiness. They cupped their hands and said, Thank you, thank you. It's our luck, our luck. But Yihu and the other 6 women became grieved, and they knelt towards Ling Hu Chong. Ling Hu Chong was surprised. Why is everyone giving me such big propriety? And he hastily returned their propriety. We pay our respect to Headmaster, Yihu said. So, you already knew. Quickly, please, get up. Yeah, it's not convenient talking while kneeling on the ground, Peachtree Root Fairy said. Ling Hu Chong stood up and said, 6 Peach Brothers, Hangshan School and I have a few important matters we have to discuss. Please, drink wine on the side, and don't bother us, otherwise you might not be getting your 1,000 silver taels. Originally, the Peach Valley 6 fairies wanted to annoy them, but hearing that last sentence, they quickly shut up and walked to the table besides the window. They then ordered some wine and dishes. Yihu and the other disciples stood up. As they thought of Ding Xian and Ling Ye Shutai dying miserably, they couldn't help crying sorrowfully. Flower Fairy interrupted. Strange, strange. How come you're crying suddenly? If you are crying after seeing Ling Hu Chong, then it's better to not have seen him then. Ling Hu Chong glared angrily towards him, frightened. Flower Fairy quickly put his hand on his mouth. Yihu was still crying as she said, That day, Big Brother Headmaster, he went ashore to drink wine, but didn't come back to the boat. Later on, Hangshan School's martial uncle, Mo Da, came and told us that you've gone to Shaolin Temple to meet martial uncle, abbess, and master. We consulted with each other and decided that it's better for us to go to Shaolin Temple to meet with all of you. But we didn't expect to meet many Jianghu heroes on the way. And we heard them talking passionately about how you led a group of heroes to attack the Shaolin Temple, and how the thousands of monks from Shaolin ran away. There was a person with a big head, with short and plump body. He said his surname was Old. He said that martial uncle abbess and master were killed in the Shaolin Temple. Before martial uncle abbess passed away, she wanted you to take over the headmaster position of Hangshan, and that you've agreed to it. These words were already heard by a lot of people. She said till here and started to sob uncontrollably. The remaining 6 disciples also started to weep. Ling Hu Chong sighed. It's true that Ding Xian Shutai really put this heavy responsibility on my shoulder, but I'm just a young man, and my reputation is really poor, and everyone already knows that I'm a loafer of poor character. How can I be the headmaster of the Hangshan School? But it was just that the situation at that time forced me to agree. If I didn't, then Ding Xian Shutai would have died with an unfulfilled wish. This is a very difficult matter. Hey, Daisel, I'm sorry. Daisel Williams, thanks for the super chat. Thanks so much, I really appreciate it. Sorry, I butchered your name. We all hope that you come and take up the leadership of the Hangshan family, Yihu pleaded. Zheng He reasoned. Martial Uncle Headmaster, you've led us going in and out of dangers, and you've also rescued many of the disciples' lives more than once. All the disciples of the Hangshan School already know that you're an upright gentleman. Even though you're a man, our school has no regulation that doesn't allow a man to be the headmaster. A middle-aged nun called Yi Wen added, When we heard the news of Master and Martial Uncle's deaths, we all felt very sad. But when we found out that Martial Uncle Headmaster is coming to take over the leadership of the school, we all felt really comforted, as Hangshan School wouldn't be destroyed. Yihu said, My master and my 2 martial uncles were killed by someone. Hangshan School's 3 elders of the Ding generation have successively died within these several months, yet we don't know who the murderers are. Martial Uncle Headmaster, you becoming the headmaster is the best thing possible. If you weren't, then we would never be able to avenge our 3 elders. Ling Huchang nodded his head and said, I take full responsibility for avenging the death of the 3 Shitai. Qin Zhuan said, You've already been driven out from Huashan School, so now you can be the Hangshan School's headmaster. West Mountain or North Mountain, we're on par with one another in Wulin. When you meet Mr. Yue in the future, you won't need to call him master anymore. At most, you call him Brother Yue. Ling Huchang only smiled bitterly. He thought, I don't have any more face to meet this Brother Yue. Zhang He said, After we heard of this sad news, we doubled our effort to get to the Shaolin Temple. On the way, we met with Martial Uncle Moda again. He told us that you're not in the temple anymore, but he wanted us to quickly look for you, Martial Uncle, Headmaster. Qin Zhuan continued the story. Martial Uncle Moda said that the sooner we find you, the better it would be. If we were late for a step, then you may have been persuaded to enter the Devil's sect. The orthodox and the demonical cannot mix like that of water and fire. Hangshan School would then have no more headmaster. Zhang He glared at her and said, Martial Sister Qin talks without thinking. How can Martial Uncle Headmaster join the Devil's sect? Yes, but Martial Uncle Moda really said this, Qin Zhuan replied. Ling Huchang thought, Martial Uncle Moda is very concerned about this matter. Even though I didn't join the Sun Moon sect, I very nearly did. That day, if Chief Ren didn't tempt me with the secret of the internal art, and if he had actually asked me sincerely and earnestly to join the sect, then it would have been a very difficult decision for me. Also, considering Ying Ying's and Big Brother Xiang's parts in asking me, I might have immediately pledged my oath after attending to Hangshan School's big matter. He then said, That's why you offered 1,000 silver taels for the capture of Ling Huchang. Qin Zhuan broke from her tears and smiled. Capture Ling Huchang? How could we dare? Zhang He said, After everyone heard Martial Uncle Moda's instruction, we divided into groups of 7 to look for Martial Uncle Headmaster and to ask you to come up to Hangshan to handle the school's responsibilities. Today, we met the Peach Valley 6 fairies. They asked for 1,000 silver taels to look for Martial Uncle Headmaster. Don't mention 1,000 silver taels. Even if it were 10,000 silver taels, we would think of a way to give it to them. Ling Huchang smiled. There's no benefit for you when I become your headmaster, but your skill in getting alms from corrupt officials, village bosses, and greedy rich people will surely advance by a lot. The 7 disciples thought of that day in Fujian when they asked for alms from white peeling leather. Their sadness was slightly relieved, and they all broke into smiles. All right, don't worry, everyone. Ling Huchang already promised Dingxian Shitai, so I can't just disregard what I said. I'll definitely become your headmaster. We'll eat until we're full, then we'll go up to Hangshan. The 7 disciples all rejoiced when they heard this. Ling Huchang then drank some wine together with the Peach Valley 6 fairies. He asked the 6 of them what they wanted to use 1,000 silver taels for. Root Fairy answered, Night Cat Ji Wushi is extremely poor. If he didn't have 1,000 silver taels, he wouldn't be able to live from day to day, so we promised to give him our help as best as we can. Trunk Fairy added, That day inside Shaolin Temple, we brothers made a bet with Ji Wushi. Flower Fairy interrupted, Of course Ji Wushi lost. How could this little kid win from us brothers? But Ling Huchang thought, You made a bet with Ji Wushi. Of course the one who lost is you guys. He asked, What did you bet on? Fruit Fairy answered, The matter we bet on concerns you. We guessed that you surely won't become the Hangshan School's headmaster. No. We guessed that you will surely become the Hangshan School's headmaster. Flower Fairy said, Night Cat guessed that you surely won't become the Hangshan School's headmaster. We then said gentlemen's words must be believed. You already promised that old nun to become the Hangshan School's headmaster. The world's heroes have already heard what you said. How could you deny it? Branch Fairy said. Night Cat said, Ling Huchang is loitering around Jianghu, and soon he will take the devil's sex's sacred lady as his wife. Why does he want to chit-chat with some old and young nuns? Ling Huchang thought, Nightcat reveres Ying Ying completely. How can it be possible that he said the devil's sect? It must be the Peach Valley 6 fairies who inverted their storytelling. He then said, So then you gambled 1,000 silver taels on it? Root Fairy replied, Right. At that time, we were certain that we were going to win. Ji Wushi then said that this 1,000 silver taels must be earned honestly, and we can't steal it off people. We told him, of course. Would Peach Valley 6 fairies rob people? Leaf Fairy said, Today we met several of these nuns while we're looking for you. They said that they want to invite you to become the Hangshan School's headmaster. We agreed to help look for you for the cost of 1,000 silver taels. Ling Huchang smiled and said, You felt pitiful when you thought that Nightcat would lose 1,000 silver taels to you. That's why you wanted to earn 1,000 silver taels to give to him, so that he could give this to you when he loses? Peach Valley 6 fairies answered at the same time, That's right. Your prediction is really accurate. Leaf Fairy added, Compared to our prediction skill, your prediction skill doesn't lack by too much. Afterwards, Ling Huchang and his party set out to Hangshan. On the day they finally arrived at the foot of the mountain, the disciples from the school were respectfully waiting at the foot as they had received a message about the arrival. They quickly paid their respects to Ling Huchang when they saw him. Ling Huchang hastily returned their propriety. He told them how Dingxian and Dingyi Shitai passed away, and all of them felt grieved. Ling Huchang saw Yi Lin amongst the rest of the disciples. She seemed to be looking feeble and much thinner since the last time he saw her. He asked, Martial's sister Yi Lin, you've been unwell recently? Both of Yi Lin's eyes were red as she answered, It's nothing. After a moment, she continued, You're our headmaster now, so you can't call me Martial's sister anymore. On their way to the mountain, Yihe and the rest of the disciples all called Ling Huchang as Martial Uncle Headmaster. He kept telling everyone not to call him that, but none of them agreed. After hearing Yilin telling him not to call her Martial's sister, he said in a clear voice, Martial's sisters, Ling Huchang is taking the leadership of the Hangshan School's family because of the former abbess's order. Actually, I don't have the virtue or ability to do this job. I really don't deserve it. What's up, Streety McMeany? You're not late, you're just in time. All the disciples replied, It's actually the fortune of this school and that Martial Uncle Headmaster... It's actually the fortune of this school that our Martial Uncle Headmaster is willing to take on this heavy responsibility. Then everyone must promise me one thing, Ling Huchang answered. Yihu and the rest of the disciples said, We would never disobey my headmaster's order. I'm only becoming your martial brother, headmaster, not your martial uncle, headmaster, Ling Huchang told them. Yihe, Yiqing, Yizhen, Yiwen, and the rest of the older disciples consulted with each other, and then reported back, Headmaster is very modest. We'll obey your order. Ling Huchang happily said, That's very good. Then they all went up the Hangshan mountain together. The summit of Hangshan was very tall, even though everyone was walking really quickly. It still took them half a day to reach the Xianxing Peak after seeing it from afar. The main convent of the Hangshan school was the Wusu Convent, which was a really small convent, while the other convent had more than 30 stone houses where the disciples resided in. Ling Huchang saw that the Wusu Convent only consisted of 2 rooms, one at the front and the other in the back. Compared to the grand temple of Shaolin, it was like comparing an ant to an elephant. When he arrived inside the convent, he saw a statue of the goddess of mercy, Guanyin. The inside of the convent was spotlessly clean, and everything was arranged simply. He never thought that the Hangshan school, with such an earth-shattering name in Jianghu, would have such a plain convent. After paying his respect to the Guanyin deity, Yu Xiao led him to Dingxian Shitai's meditation place, but he saw the four walls were dull, and there was only an old putuan on the floor. That's the thing that you sit on to pray. Besides that, there was nothing else. Ling Hucheng loved liveliness, drinking, and eating. How could he possibly stay in that quiet and calm room to meditate? If he took wine, dog meat, or any meat in general into the room to eat and drink, then that would be too impolite towards everyone here. He then asked Yu Xiao, "Even though I'm the headmaster of the Hangshan school, I'm not a Buddhist, and I'm also not a nun. The disciples of the school are all women, while I'm a man, so living inside the convent isn't really appropriate. Please, give me and the Peach Valley's 6 fairies an empty and faraway house to live in. Then that would be appropriate." Yu Xiao said, "Yes. The West Peak has 3 big houses. They're originally guest houses, which we offered to the parents of the school's disciples whenever they come for a visit. If they're acceptable to the headmaster, then the headmaster can stay there temporarily while we build a new residence for you." Ling Hucheng happily replied, "It's already good that there's a house. Why do you need to build a new house?" While he thought in his heart, "Could it be that I'll be the Hangshan School's headmaster for the rest of my life? Once I've found a suitable person from the school to whom all the disciples will submit to, then I'll pass on this headmaster position to her. Then I'll pat my buttocks and travel around Jianghu leisurely and happily." When he arrived at the house on the West Peak, he saw the bed, mattress, and chair, and the rest of the things resembled that of a rich farmer's house. Even though they were still simple and humble, they didn't appear as dull as in the convent. Yu Xiao said, "Headmaster, please sit. I'll go and get you some wine." Ling Hucheng was happily surprised. "There's wine on this mountain?" Yu Xiao smiled and said, "Not only do we have wine, we have good wine here. When little Martial's sister Yilin heard that the headmaster is coming up to Hangshan, she told me that if we don't have good wine, then she's afraid that you won't be headmaster for long. So on that same night, we sent people to go down the mountain to buy many jars of good wine." Ling Hucheng felt embarrassed. He smiled and said, "Everyone worked so hard and spent so much money because of me. I don't think that's justified." Yi Qing smiled. "That day we got a lot of silver from the white peeling leather. Even though we give half of it to the poor, we still have plenty remaining. Also, we already sold those government's horses for some money, so Martial Brother Headmaster can drink for 10 years or 20 years. We'll have enough money to buy wine." That night, Ling Hucheng and the Peach Valley 6 fairies drank to their hearts' content. The next morning, he consulted with Yu Xiao, Yi Qing, Yi He, and the other disciples on how to welcome the ashes of the 2 Shitai and how to avenge the 3 Shitai. That is so sweet of Yilin. Yeah, she really knows his character. Yi Qing said, "Martial Uncle Headmaster has now taken the post of headmaster, so we must announce this to all the orthodox people of Wulin, and we must also dispatch people to tell the 5 Mountains Sword School's chief, Martial Uncle Zhuo." Yi He indignantly said, "Huh, my master was killed by these traitors from the Songshan School. The 2 martial uncles were most likely killed by them as well. What do we tell them for?" Yi Qing replied, "We mustn't lack any propriety. Wait until we have investigated this clearly. If the 3 honorables were really killed by the Songshan School, then at that time, Martial Uncle Headmaster will lead us to confront them about their sin." Ling Hucheng nodded his head. "What Martial Sister Yi Qing said is true. But regarding the position of headmaster, let me just do the job. There's no need for any celebration." He remembered the time when Master became the leader of Huashan. He was still very young at that time, and he recalled that there were so many formal celebrations. There were also numerous people from Wulin of the Orthodox path who came up the mountain to congratulate his master and attend the ceremonies. He also remembered how the city of Hangshan was completely filled by many heroes for Hangshan School's Liu Jiangfeng's gold basin hand washing ceremony. Hangshan, Huashan, and Hangshan schools had all the same reputation. If there weren't many people turning up at the ceremony to congratulate him for taking up the headmaster position, then it would be very humiliating. Even if there were many people attending, it is most likely for them to laugh at him for taking up the leadership of a group of nuns. Yiqing understood his heart, so she said, "Since Marshal Brother Headmaster doesn't want to alarm the friends in Wulin, we wouldn't invite guests to come up the mountain to attend the ceremony. But we must decide on a day for headmasters to officially take up the position so that we can officially inform everyone." Ling Hucheng felt that if he took up the headmaster position of the Hangshan school too carelessly, it would damage the school's prestige and reputation, since Hangshan is one of the 5 mountains sword schools, so he nodded his head, agreeing. Yiqing took up a calendar and perused it for some time. She then said, the 16th of the second month, the 16th of the second month, 8th of the third month, 27th of the third month. These 3 days are lucky days. Marshal Brother Headmaster, have a look. Which day is suitable? Ling Hucheng had never believed in any lucky or unlucky days. All he thought about in his heart was that the earlier the ceremony was, then the less people there would be to take part in it, and he would be able to avoid much embarrassment. So he said, "Is there any good days for this month?" Yiqing answered, "There are actually many good days during this month, but they're all for going on a journey, breaking the ground, wedding, opening a business, and others like that. It's not until the second month that there are good days for receiving seal and taking up office." Ling Hucheng smiled. "I'm not taking up a government position, so it's not really receiving a seal." Yi laughed. Weren't you a general before? Becoming a headmaster is also receiving a seal." Ling Hucheng didn't want to brush away their ideas, so he said, "Since it's like that, then make it the 16th of the second month." Afterwards, they immediately sent disciples separately to Shaolin Temple to take back the 2 Shirtai's ashes, and to other schools to give notifications. He told all the disciples who were going down the mountain not to publicly announce this matter. He also said, "You must report to the headmaster of each school that we haven't avenged Bingshan Shutai's death yet, and that the disciples of the Hangshan school are still in mourning, so there won't be any grand ceremony for the taking up of the headmaster's office. Please ask them not to send anyone to attend the ceremony." He really doesn't want this ceremony to happen. After he talked to the departing disciples, Ling Hucheng thought, "Since I'm now the headmaster of Hangshan School, I must carefully research the sword art of the Hangshan School." He gathered the remaining disciples and tested each of their sword art, from the basic introductory level to the highest Hangshan sword art styles, which was displayed by Yihe and Yiqing, 2 of the oldest disciples. Ling Hucheng saw that the Hangshan school's sword art was defensively very tight, and the killing moves were frequently aimed at spots where other people least expected. However, it did not have enough swiftness or ferociousness. These martial arts were really suitable for women. All the previous master generations of the Hangshan school had all been women, so their martial arts weren't as powerful or fierce like the ones that men used. But the Hangshan school's sword art could be said to be one of the sword arts with the least amount of flaws in them. If speaking about their defense, they were just slightly below the Wudang school's Taiji sword art. But talking about how they could suddenly attack, these sword arts were above the Taiji sword art. The Hangshan school was one of the most outstanding schools in Wulin. so it had its own unique skills. In his mind, he carefully went over the drawings engraved on the cave wall on Huashan. There were some Hangshan school sword arts drawn there, which had wonderful variations, and were far above the sword art that Yi He and Yi Qing were using. Even though this set of sword art had been defeated by other people, if in the future the Hangshan school wanted to be glorious in Wulin, then its basic skills needed to be improved. He also thought of the time he saw Dingjing Shutai fighting with other people. Her internal energy was abundant, and her moves were fierce. She was really very far above Yiher and the other disciples. He had also heard that Dingxian Shutai's martial art was even higher. It seemed that these three senior Shutai had not imparted a great deal of their martial art to their disciples yet. When the three Shutai had successively passed away in the last several months, many of the Hangshan schools' wonderful martial art had possibly been lost forever. Yihe saw him without any expressions on his face and noticed that he didn't comment on any of the disciples' sword arts. So she said, "Martial brother headmaster, you must be looking down on our sword art. Please give us some advice." Taking the sword from Yihe's hand, Ling Huchang replied, "There's this set of Hangshan schools' sword art. I don't know if the three Shutai had imparted it to you or not." He started to show the Hangshan schools' sword art engraved on the cave wall. He was doing the moves really slowly to let the disciples see it clearly. After a few moves, all the disciples started cheering. They saw that each move of his still contained the basic essence of the Hangshan sword art, but the variations were wonderful. They didn't know just how much higher in level this set was when compared to each of the sets they had learned in the past. Everyone was looking at each move enthusiastically, and they felt pleased seeing it. The engraving of this set of sword moves on the cave wall was dead, so when Ling Huchang was using it, he linked them up one by one. In between each move, it was unavoidable that he had to add some of his ideas into it. When he finally finished showing them this set of sword art, all the disciples cheered and they all bowed, saluting him. Yihe said, "Martial Uncle Headmaster, this is clearly our Hangshan schools' sword art, but we've never seen it before. I'm afraid that even my master and the two martial uncles didn't know about it. Where did you learn it?" Ling Huchang answered, "I saw it on a mountain cave wall. If you are willing to learn it, then how about if I imparted this sword art to you?" All the disciples were happy to hear this, and they thanked him. That day, Ling Huchang imparted 3 moves to them. He explained the intricacies of those 3 moves clearly and personally and conducted the drills. Even though it was only 3 moves from the sword art, these moves were extremely profound and deep. Even the brightest and the most skilled disciples, such as Yihe and Yi Qing, took 7 to 8 days to learn it. When it came to Zheng E, Yilin, Qin Chuan, and the others, it was even more difficult for them to comprehend it. After 9 days, Ling Huchang imparted 2 more moves to them. There were not many moves in this set of sword arts engraved on the cave wall, but they had actually spent more than 1 month before they completed rudimentary training. As to the mastery of this sword art, it depended on each person's ability and comprehension. After more than a month, the disciples who were sent as emissaries started to return from their trip one by one, and for the most part, they didn't look pleased at all. They were afraid to talk when they reported to Ling Huchang. He knew for sure without asking that they had been ridiculed as a group of nuns wanting a man to be their headmaster. All he could do was console them with words. Then he asked them to separately learn from their martial sisters the sword art he had imparted to them. If there were anything they weren't clear about, then he would personally advise them. 2 experienced disciples, Yu Sao and Yi Wen, were sent to Huashan to deliver the epistle. The distance between Hangshan and Huashan wasn't that far, so they should have returned much earlier. Even when all the disciples who went to the south had returned, Yu Sao and Yi Wen still hadn't come back. As they neared the 16th of the 2nd month, the day for taking office, and still hadn't seen any sign of Yu Sao and Yi Wen, they sent 2 more disciples. Yi Guang and Yi Shi to go to their aid. The disciples did not anticipate any sect or school sending anyone to attend the ceremony, so they didn't prepare any lodging or food for guests. However, everyone had earlier weeded the ground, swept all the rooms clean, and sewn new gowns and shoes to wear. Zheng He and some disciples had sewn a black gown for Ling Huchang to wear for this day. Hangshan was the north mountain among the 5 mountains, and the color of their uniform was black. On the morning of the 16th of the 2nd month, when Ling Huchang got out after getting out of bed, he saw lamps and festoons hanging from the top of each house, showing the day's happy occasion. Seeing the care and dedication that went into making each of the decoration and securely arranging them, Ling Huchang again felt ashamed. But he also felt appreciation towards them. He thought, the 2 Shitai died tragically because of me, but they didn't blame me for it. Instead, they gave much regards to me. If Ling Huchang couldn't avenge the 3 Shitai, then I would be a useless person. Suddenly, he heard someone shouting from behind the corner of the mountain. Ah Lin! Your dad has come to look at you. Are you well? Ah Lin, your dad's here. His voice was booming, shaking the valley, and before the echo had finished, he again shouted, Ah Lin, your dad. Yilin had already heard his voice, so she quickly got out of the convent and called out, Dad! Then from around the corner of the mountain, a tall and strong monk emerged. It was really Yilin's father, Monk No Commandment, and there was also another monk behind him. The 2 of them were walking. So now we see Monk No Commandment again. The 2 of them were walking really fast, and in a short time had reached the convent. Monk No Commandment loudly exclaimed, Master Ling Hu, you didn't die from your heavy injuries, and now you're going to become my daughter's headmaster. That's very good. Ling Huchang smiled. This is thanks to the great master. Yilin walked up to her father and lovingly pulled on his arm. She smiled. Dad, you know today is the day that big brother Ling Hu officially takes up office as the headmaster of the Hangshan school. Did you come here to congratulate him? No Commandment laughed. There's no need for congratulation. I'm here to join the Hangshan school. Everyone is from the same school. What's there to congratulate? Ling Huchang was startled, and he quickly asked, Great Master wants to join the Hangshan school? No Commandment answered, Yeah, my daughter is in the Hangshan school. I'm her old man, so naturally I'm also in the Hangshan school. His granny, I heard everyone ridiculing you. They're saying that you're a man, but you want to become the headmaster of a bunch of nuns and young ladies. His granny, they didn't know that you're full of passion and righteousness. The mind. His eyebrows turned to a smile, and it appeared that he was really happy. He looked at his daughter and said, Old man, punched that guy's mouth and broke all his teeth. I shouted to him, You little kid nose fart. How can everyone in the Hangshan school be all nuns and young ladies? This old man is from the Hangshan school. Even though this old man has a shiny head, do you think I'm a nun? I'm going to pull my pants down to give you a look. So I pulled my pants down, but this kid fell down and then ran away. Ling Huchang and Yilin both laughed freely when they heard this. Yilin smiled. Dad, you're so crude in doing things. You're also not afraid of people laughing at you. No Commandment replied, If I didn't let him look clearly, then this kid still wouldn't know whether I'm a nun or a monk. Brother Ling Hu, I've joined the Hangshan school. I've also brought this grand disciple along. Cannot have no commandment. Quickly, greet Headmaster Ling Hu. Oh my god. His disciple is named Cannot Have No Commandment. While monk No Commandment was speaking, the monk following him had his back turned towards them for the whole time, not willing to look at Ling Hu Chong or Yi Lin. As he turned around, his face was full of embarrassment. He looked at Ling Hu Chong and smiled slightly. Ling Hu Chong felt that this monk looked familiar, but he couldn't figure out who he was. Then he was startled as he unexpectedly recognized the 10,000 miles loner Tianbo Guang. He was totally amazed and blurted out, It's Brother Tian? That monk was really Tianbo Guang. He smiled bitterly, then bowed towards Yilin. Greetings, master. Oh shit. He still calls Yilin his master. Yilin was also very surprised. How did you become a Buddhist? Is it a disguise? Great Master No Commandments was feeling proud of himself, and he laughingly answered, This is the real thing, and he's not deceiving anyone here. He had really become a monk. Cannot have no commandment. Tell your master what your Buddhist name is. Tianbo Guang smiled bitterly and said, Master, Grand Marshal Master gave me a Buddhist name called Cannot Have No Commandment. Yilin asked strangely, What cannot have no commandment? How can there be such a name? Her father replied, What do you know? In Buddhist scripture, what does it matter how long the Buddha's name is? Buddha of compassion and sorrow, helps the distressed and watches the world's voice. Isn't that a long name? Cannot have no commandment, only has 4 words in his name. How can that be long? Yilin nodded. So that's how it is. How did he become a Buddhist? Dad, was it you who took him as your disciple? Monk No Commandment answered, No, he's your disciple. I'm his grand marshal grandpa, but you're only a little nun, and since he had already paid his respect to take you as his master, if he didn't become a monk, then he would have ruined the good name of the Hangshan school. That's why I advised him to become a monk. Okay, poor guy. He was forced to become a monk. Yilin laughingly said, What do you mean advised him? Dad, you must have forced him to become a Buddhist, didn't you? He voluntarily did it. You can't force someone to become a Buddhist. Whatever goodness this person has, there's an equal amount of badness in him. That's why I gave him the Buddhist name of Cannot Have No Commandment. Yilin's face became slightly red as she understood the meaning behind her father's words. This Tianbo Guang was a very lecherous person, and he was somehow captured by her father in the past. At that time, his life was spared, but a lot of strange punishments were heaped on him. This time it seemed that he had been forced to become a monk. Then No Commandment continued. My Buddhist name is No Commandment, so I don't adhere to any rules or commandments. But this Tianbo Guang has committed a lot of bad things in Jianghu. If he didn't abstain from committing more of these piles of misdemeanors, how can he be under your school and become your disciple? Master Linghu wouldn't have liked this also. In the future, he's going to receive my alms bowl, and that's why his name also has the words No Commandment. They suddenly heard a person say, Monk No Commandment and Monk Cannot Have No Commandments are both joining the Hangshan School. The Peach Valley 6 Fairies are also going to join the Hangshan School. The Peach Valley 6 Fairies had come, and the one who spoke just then was Trunk Fairy. Root Fairy said, We were the first people to see Ling Hu Chong, so the 6 of us are big martial brothers, while Monk No Commandment is little martial brother. Ling Hu Chong thought, since there are Great Master No Commandment and Tianbo Guang in the Hangshan school already, there's no harm in accepting the Peach Valley 6 Fairies as well. This way, it'll remove those talks in Jianghu about Ling Hu Chong becoming the headmaster of a group of nuns and young ladies. He then said, Peach Tree 6 brothers are willing to enter the Hangshan school, then that's really good, but it's very troublesome to arrange the seniority order one by one, so it's better if we just leave it alone. Leaf Fairy said, No commandments is disciple is called cannot have no commandment. When in the future cannot have no commandment accepts a disciple, what will his Buddhist name be? Fruit Fairy answered, Cannot have no commandments is disciple's Buddhist name must also have the words cannot have no commandment. He can be called, without doubt, cannot have no commandment. Branch Fairy said, Then the disciple of without doubt cannot have no commandment. What would his Buddhist name be? Ling Wuchang saw Tian Bo Guang's plight, so he took his arm and led him away. I have a few words to ask you. All right, Tian Bo Guang answered. The two of them quickened their steps and moved tens of feet away, but behind them they still heard Trunk Fairy saying, His Buddhist name can be with reason and without doubt cannot have no commandment. Flower Fairy added, And how about the disciple of with reason and without doubt cannot have no commandment? What would his Buddhist name be? Tian Bo Guang smiled bitterly and said, Headmaster Ling Hu, that day I was forced by Grand Marshal Master to go to Huashan to invite you to come and see the little Shi Tai, but there's a long story behind that. Ling Huchang said, I know that he forced you to take a poison, and he also tricked you by saying that he'd already sealed your death acupoint. I've already told you about that before. That day in the courtyard of the Jade House, I fought with that shorty, you. After that, I thought about it and decided that there were too many heroes from the orthodox path for me to stay here for long. So I went north towards Hunan. I'm afraid to talk about those days. My shortcomings became visible not long after. In Kaifeng Prefecture, I lifted the mosquito net and extended my hand to cop a feel, but I unexpectedly felt a bald head instead. Ling Huchang laughed and said, So to your surprise, she's a nun? Tian Bo Guang smiled bitterly. No, it was a monk. That's it. That was a short chapter, what the fuck? Yeah. Wait, so what does that mean? I lifted in So he wanted to feel up this the young lady of this rich family, but he felt a bald head instead. He probably felt the monk no commandments, right? Whoops. Yeah, the Hangshan schools' male monk population is increasing exponentially. That's true. Wait, how would the students feel about it? Like, how would a student of a school of women feel about these guys joining their school? All right. Not much happened in this chapter, right? Yeah, he's just getting used to becoming a headmaster of a school. That's fine. That's fine. Sometimes we have these kinds of chapters. All right. I think we're done, right? That was quick. I didn't expect it to finish this quickly, but I do have wine. Ooh. All right. Cheers. I think we're good. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Short chapter. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully there'll be a longer chapter. You think nuns wouldn't mind as long as the monks lived far away? Yeah, maybe. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time. All right, bye.